Now, we know what a circle is. Basically, actually, I might have. Here we go. I do have something. I forgot about it. This is what a circle looks like. I think I put one of them protractor one time here. Wait, where's my protractor? I should have a protractor somewhere over there. Where I put it now?
Your compass?
No, I have a protractor. Comes out nice. Here we go, got it. I know I bought one for that reason, because I could never make the circle look nice.
Oh, that's his compass.
Oh yeah. What did I say? Protractor. Well, I could use a protractor, but no, that's not what I was looking for. I'm thinking. That's what a circle is. But where's the center of this circle? In the middle of it, the center, right? Right here, at the origin. Well, not every circle has a center at the origin. Sometimes your circle is right there. I hate this. There we go. That looks good enough. There's my center right there. So instead of just giving you one equation for a circle that's centered at the origin, I'm going to give you the answer for any circle. So let's call the center h comma k. That's where the center is. That's right here.
Is there any particular reason for h comma k, or is that just
An x value and a y value. So, and if you think x is always before y, so h before k. But you can use any number, anything. You could have called it a and b. So the equation for the circle, if it was center at the origin, was x squared plus y squared equals r squared. If this circle here with the center at the origin, the equation for that, but not that one. That will not have that equation to it, because the center is somewhere else. So the standard form for a circle will be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. R is the radius. So center of the circle, notice it has to be a minus sign for both of them. The center is where? At h comma k, and the radius is equal to r. The radius is that distance from here to the edge of the circle. The radius for this is that one, from the center to the edge of that circle. So if I said to you, locate the center for the following circle. Then graph it. What's my following circle? Here we go. X minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals what? Let's use a 16.
Now you're just making up those numbers.
Yep,
right?
I made something up. That's the problem I'm making. So now I need to locate where the center is. Where's my center? Well, if I can put it in this form, this is the standard form for a circle. If I can put it in that form, I didn't mean to write 16, I meant to write what? R squared. If I can put it in that form, then I know where the center. The center is going to be what? Will be h comma k, if I can put it in that form. Notice hk, not negative h, negative k. And the radius will be what? R. So let's take that equation and make it look like this. How do you take that equation and make it look like this? Well, the first piece here is fine. This is not good. That's a plus, supposed to be a minus. So how will you make it look like this? I want it to be a minus, not a plus.
Subtract negative.
So can I write that y minus a negative 2? And I want that to be r squared. So I want that number to be something square. So how about the 16? What can you do to it? Isn't that 4 squared? Now I know my center and I know my radius. The center is where? What is h here? Center is supposed to be h comma k. When you compare the two of them, compare this to this one. What is h and what's k?
Negative 2 is K and negative 1 is H.
Not negative 1.
Well,
1.
1 comma negative 2. The center at 1 comma negative 2. And the radius r is going to be what?
4.
4.
Are we ignoring the square roots?
That's the equation for it, yep. Equation of a circle.
So we get the we get the negative 2 from where the k is.
Correct.
Y is 1.
X is x, minus is minus.
Okay.
1 has to be h.
And that's a positive 1.
Yep. So now when I go to graph it, remember where the center, 1 and negative 2. I go x is 1, y is negative 2. Let me use a scale here. This is the 1, negative 2 down. I'm using centimeters here. That's where the center is. That's the 1 comma negative 2. Now what's my radius? 4. Let me take here my gizmo. Let's make the opening is 4. Is that 4? 1. Oh, I think I went more than. What is that stupid thing here? 0, 1, 2, 3. Actually, I went more than. I didn't go actually to 2. 2 is below that. A little bit below that. I was using the wrong scale there. Any scale, it really doesn't matter what scale I use. Let me just try to be neat with it. I'm going to use this scale here. Go 1 to the right and 2 down. Notice there's my scale. I got to put on 1. 1 is right here. 2 down. Can you see that on the monitor? 2 down is right here. So that's where 1 comma negative 2. Now my radius is going to be 4 units. So let me measure that 4 from here. That's 4. Can you see that? So my center is right here. You could start from here, and that's what the circle will look like. And that's the graph of that circle. It's not centered at the origin. It's centered at 1 comma negative 2. That's it. It says find where the circle is, the center of it, the radius, and graph it. Let's look at another one. Let me just go there in the back of the book there and grab some problems. Okay, determine the center and the radius of each circle. So determine, I like the blue color. The center and the radius. Of the circle below. And the equation for that is four times, I'm putting a twist in it, x plus 1 squared plus 4y squared equals 121. I'm telling you it's a circle. I already made that statement. What is the standard form for a circle? X minus h squared one problem here I see with this one I gave you. There are numbers in the front. There are no numbers with this one.
So you gotta.
What would you do? You got a 4. It's not supposed to be any numbers here. Divide everything by 4. Okay. If you divide it by 4, this will be what? 121 over 4, which is what?
30.25.
Well, that's the decimal, so we'll leave it 120 because we're going to do it nicely here. Still doesn't look like the red one. I see a plus there instead of a minus. So what's next? So that becomes x minus what? A negative 1. Let's get to the y here. I'm supposed to subtract something, but there's nothing to subtract.
It's 0.
Y minus 0. And I'm supposed to write that number squared. What is the square root of 121? 11. What's the square root of 4? 2. Now look at these two. When you match them, you know what h, you know what k. So your center supposed to be at h comma k. What is h here?
-1.
Negative 1. What's k?
0.
0. And my radius r is going to be what?
11 over 2.
11 over 2. Eleven over 2 is what, 5.5?
Yeah.
So if I want to graph that, if I decided to graph that circle, I need to go to my next sheet. I know my center where? negative 1 comma 0, and my radius is 5.5, right? Let's see what it looks like. Negative 1 comma 0. I think I might use smaller scale because otherwise, maybe I'll use half. Instead of full 1, I'll use half. Negative 1 comma, that's the center. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, somewhere there. Otherwise, if I use the whole thing, well, I could have used the full thing actually. It'll be a big circle, but that's okay. So I'll stay with this one. So I need to go 2.5 because I'm using a scale of a half. 5.5, is that 2.5? No, 5.5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 right there should be. Because of my scale. And my circle will look like this. And that's the graph of my circle. Center, again, negative 1 comma 0. That's where the center is. So it's not in the middle, it's a little bit off to the side. Let's try another one. Find the equation of a circle. The equation with what? With center at center at 2 comma 3 and radius equals to 4. So I'm looking for the equation here, backward, right? What's my equation? The standard form? R squared. Where's H? Where's K? There's H and there's K. So that's what? X minus 3 squared plus Y minus what?
Wouldn't that be 2 squared?
2 squared, yes. Y minus what? 3 squared equals 4 squared. And you clean that, what are you going to have? That's the FOIL method. X squared minus 4x plus 4. The FOIL method, y squared minus what? 6y plus 9. You multiply it by itself, equals 16. So I can say x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 6y. What's 9 and 4? 13. When you bring the 16 to this side, what's 13 minus 16? Negative 3. So if you collect like terms, that's what you're going to have. A lot of times they put the squares first. You might see that written like this: x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 6y minus 3 is equal to 0.
Can you move that 16 over and then collect like terms?
Sure you can. That's why I did them. I just did them one step. I said 4 and 9 is what? 13. Bring the 16 is negative. What makes it more difficult when they give it to you like this, and they say, give me the equation of a circle, to work it backward to that form. That's the challenging part. That's our next example. How do you go from here back to that one?
I was just gonna ask you.
Graph the circle. I'm telling you it's a circle. Of circle of, let's see. Let's pick a problem. What are we going to do? X squared plus y squared plus 2x minus 2y is equal to 0. You're saying that's a circle. Graph it. Well, I can't graph it till somehow I can put it in this form. I need somehow take this and turn it to make it look like this. And next to it write good luck. Yeah. So how do we make this one look like this? How do we do it? Well, the first thing I do with these problems, I take the x's, put them next to each other. Leave a space here. Leave a space here. I decided to group the x's together, and again I'm leaving a space, there's a reason, and I'm grouping the y's together. I'm going to somehow magically make this one look like this. Well, the only thing I can do right now is factor an x out. But if I factor an x, it will not look like this. That doesn't do me any good. Not even close to what I'm looking for. So somehow to turn this to make it look like this, I need to complete the square. I don't know if you remember completing the square. You take this number, which is plus 2, divided by 2, and you square it. That's how you complete the square. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. Square it, which is what? 1. Let me add 1 to this side. And if you add 1 to this side, you better add 1 to that side. You have an equation. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do the same thing to the other side. Same thing with this one. Let's complete the square. Take the negative 2, divide it by 2 and square it. That'll be a negative 1. When you square it, that's what? 1. Add 1 here. Add 1 here. It's not always 1. It just happens to be in this example. Now, why did we do that? Well, let's factor this. Can you factor x squared plus 2x plus 1? Isn't it x plus 1 times x plus 1? Which means x plus 1 squared. Factor this one. That's y minus 1 times y minus 1, which is y minus 1 squared equals 2. I'm almost where I need to be. Except I need this sign to be what? Minus? So that would be x minus a negative 1 squared y minus 1 squared equals, well, it's supposed to be something square here. Isn't that the square root of 2 squared? If you take a square root and you square it, you lose the square root sign. So now I know where my center is. Where's my center? At h comma k. Which is what? What is h?
-1,
And what's k?
-1.
Try again. 1.
Oh, 1.
And what's the radius? Yep. So if I go to graph it now, here we go. Center at negative 1 comma 1, r equals the square root of 2, which is roughly 1.4. I'm sad my beautiful pen is dying on me. I just bought this. I thought I bought a dozen of them. I only bought one. Maybe I use a bigger scale. I use inches for that. Minus 1 and 1. That'll be a little bit big maybe. I'll use this. Minus 1. Can you see the minus 1? Minus 1. Go up 1 unit. So that's where the center, right here. And my radius is going to be roughly 1.5, 1.4. So here we go, just a hair less than the 1.5, that's 1.4. So my circle is going to be gee, this is not good. I'm supposed to make it look beautiful there. It's not happening there. You know, they say you get what you pay for. I don't pay much for that stupid thing. Let's try it again. I should just do them by hand and just never mind being nice and neat. Let me come back here. And that's the graph of that circle. The center minus 1 and 1, and the radius is 1.4. So we have to complete the square for them to be able to solve these problems. I'll try another one. Same thing. Graph the circle. And my circle is x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0.
It's not minus 5y.
Yeah, just minus 5, no y. I put a twist in it. Okay. Yep, it's not a typo, so it's not a negative 5y, just negative 5. I'll make sure you can see it. So what I'm going to do first, put the x's next to each other. leave a space there, plus, here's the y squared. There's nothing to subtract from y. And let me move the negative 5 to the right side, make it what? Positive 5. Now to complete the square, I'm going to take this number and do what with it? Divided by 2. It's always by 2 and square it. What's minus 4 divided by 2? Negative 2. Square it, which is what? 4. Let me add 4. And let me add 4. I can't complete the square for y, but it's not a big deal. Now, when I factor this, can I factor this? Isn't that x minus 2 times x minus 2? And there's nothing to subtract from y, so what do? Y minus what? 0. Yes. And that number, isn't that 9? And you can write the 9 as what? 3 squared. Does that look like the standard form now? It matches x minus h squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, y minus k squared equals r squared. K, not 0. I'm trying to match the standard form. K is 0, but I gotta write k here. So now when you look at them, center is where? H comma k, yes, 2 and 0. And the radius is equal to what? 3. 2, 0, radius 3. Huh? You have to. I'll give you a little hint. If you look at it when you're factoring, see this number? That's your number right here. Always. If you look at the previous one, what was this number? 1? Look at that number. That was a minus 1. Always going to be that. Every single time. But you should know your factoring. Yes. So now my center is 2 comma 0. 2, 0. Let's see where that is. And my radius is 3. Here we go with that stupid thing here. Let's do that at 3. And that's the graph of my circle. Center 2 comma 0. And if you measure that distance, that's the 3 units. The radius. That's all we have to know about circles.